The anniversary passed quietly last Friday, though I noticed that the movie commemorating the event was on TV a lot last week. The first movie to ever make $1 billion at the box office. A story built around the most famous peacetime maritime disaster in history. The sinking of the Titanic 110 years ago. A story of meteorology, oceanography, and maybe even astronomy. The 883-foot-long ocean liner, one of the largest and most luxurious ever built, departed from Southampton, England on April 10th, 1912, stopped in France and Ireland to pick up passengers, and then set out across the North Atlantic, bound for New York City. Fair weather dominated the first 3 days. By then, the ship was southeast of Newfoundland in a clear, calm, and cold air mass in a part of the North Atlantic known for icebergs. Now, as winter breaks in the Arctic, the Labrador Current commonly transports the bergs south into the shipping lanes, often ones that originate from Greenland. Titanic Captain Edward Smith would have known that icebergs had been seen well south in that part of the Atlantic in April, and dozens of small and medium-sized ships were lost or seriously damaged by collisions with icebergs in that area of the Grand Banks in the decades prior to Titanic. But what nobody knew was that the iceberg danger there in April 1912 was unusually high, due in part to a stronger than normal Labrador Current and a relatively mild winter that allowed plenty of icebergs to calve from Greenland. Plus, 3 months earlier, the moon had made its closest approach to the Earth in more than 1,000 years, at the same time the Earth made its closest annual approach to the sun. This caused exceptionally high tides that may have made it easier for icebergs to reach the shipping lanes. On April 14, 1912, Titanic received 6 wireless messages from other vessels warning of large icebergs ahead. Still, the Titanic continued full steam, following standard practice at the time of sticking rigidly to schedule, believing that ice posed little danger to ships that large. That night was moonless, and calm seas made it harder for the 2 lookouts in the crow's nest of the Titanic because icebergs often were detected by the outline of waves breaking at their base. The one that struck the Titanic wasn't spotted until it was within 500 yards, too late to avoid a collision. The massive ship sank in just 2.5 hours into 30-degree waters. The next morning, rescue boats in the area snapped pictures of the iceberg thought to have struck the Titanic. One important legacy of the disaster was the creation of the International Ice Patrol to monitor icebergs in the North Atlantic shipping lanes. Today, it's operated by the U.S. Coast Guard and funded by 13 nations that have an interest in transatlantic navigation. On September 1, 1985, a joint U.S.-French expedition located the wreck of the Titanic at a depth of more than 12,000 feet. The ship was explored by manned and unmanned submersibles, which shed new light on the details of its sinking. Stay tuned. Our extended forecast is next.